Hey guys, what's up? Let's talk about Mena Massoud, the dude who apparently played Aladdin in the live version of the Aladdin movie. Okay, apparently the guy is making a lot of news these days because he hasn't gotten casted. He hasn't had an audition since he did Aladdin. And apparently he had a lot of words to say about that, and Will Smith, you know, kind of chimed in. And then recently there's some minor character in Aladdin, a white guy that got a part, and that dude's getting backlash over getting a part, while this dude who played Aladdin haven't, you know, gotten an audition since he did the role. So here's my take on it. All right, I am in full support of this guy. I forgot his name already, but I said it in the beginning of my video, which is like 58 seconds ago. And you're gonna say, why would you be in support of this guy? Okay, here's the thing. I know a lot of you guys are gonna give excuses. You know, I know you guys are gonna give excuses. This is America. It's not wherever he's from, some Arab country, or this America. This is not like Saudi Arabia, blah blah blah. The guy is probably born here. I mean, I haven't looked into it. He was probably born here. He's an American. American Arab descent. He's an American. It doesn't matter. All right. First of all, okay. That's a really cheap way of making an excuse. All right. Really low, really stupid. Because here's the thing about it. Nobody's from this country except for the original Native Americans, the red man. I mean, they've been here for the last 15,000 years. You can't say, oh, they were from somewhere else. If you're from here, if your ancestors were here from 15,000 years ago, you didn't jump from one place to another. Okay, nobody counts that. Nobody should count that. All right? Because if you're going to do that, then you could say Europeans were from the Middle East. If you're going to do that, you could say, you know, people from England were from the Middle East or something like that. Or people from Ireland aren't Irish, they're from the Middle East. So it doesn't work that way. All right, I get so many idiots. There are so many idiots out there who, if you bring up, you know, Native Americans were here first, they'll bring up, you know, they were from somewhere else. They were from, you know, somewhere else. They crossed the Bering Straits or whatever. But that was like 15,000 years ago. When they say that, they think, oh, they crossed it 200 years before Columbus got here. All right, I want to smack every single one of these morons. Every single one of them. I want to smack every single one of them who bring that up as in, oh, it's okay, you know, they weren't here first. I want to smack every single one of them. Just shut the hell up. All right, think before you talk. All right, this goes to entertainers, retard entertainers. I call them retards because they're the most retarded people on the planet. That's why their last resort is entertainment. All right, because they're an industry where cronyism, nepotism, everything that's on the surface, just not deep people. All right. Anyway, I digress like I always do. But back to this guy. So you can take that out of the equation. All right, he's an American. And even if he wasn't an American, he's saying this for everybody else. If he pays taxes, he contributes to this country. All right, it doesn't really matter. Contributes to this country. All right, he deserves a place. If he doesn't deserve a place, other Arabs deserve a place. So he's speaking to Arab Americans, Asian Americans, Latino Americans. He's speaking about everybody. And I wish that Hollywood, all these people would have spoken out 20 years ago so that we don't have this situation we have today where it's nothing, where it's mostly black and white. It's mostly Jewish and well, Jewish American, African American, European American, African American. That's what's prominent right now in Hollywood. Particularly Jewish American, white American, European American. But there's a huge African American, African, you know, group in Hollywood. So here's the thing about it. All right. I always thought that Hollywood should have a quota system, an equal opportunity system in front and behind the camera for everybody. All right. For everybody. Arab Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, rather than just European American, African American. Because you guys are European Americans and African Americans, okay? But here's the thing about it. All right, Hollywood shouldn't be where this place where you rub my back, I rub your back garbage. All right, look, no other industry has that besides Hollywood. All right, there should be an equal opportunity program for people in front and in back, and and behind the cameras. Reason being is that, here's the thing. It affects, it's not just about jobs. I've said this in all my videos. It is not just about jobs. All right? It has a huge influence on society. The media has a tremendous influence on society. If you guys were around in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, you know what I mean. You've seen the social arc. You've seen how people's behavior changed. You've seen how society changed. You've seen how certain groups, some of them undeserving, have promoted themselves to a certain place in society. Black people, Jewish people. All right, these people didn't work for it. What they did was they used the media to work for them. They changed the image. It's racial promotion. They also did a lot of racial bashing. All right, that's why these people in the media, are against having other people come into, their territory. It's what's been happening. That's why you get all this amount of pushback when the gays want, their piece of the pie as far as social ascension. All right, that's why you get so many pushbacks from women against women's groups, fat shamers, etc., etc. All right, let me tell you something. This whole setup, where the last 20 years, since maybe like the late 1990s, since to maybe like a couple years ago, that shit should not have happened at all. All right, it should not have happened at all, because certain groups. When I say certain groups, I mean blacks and Jews kind of got hold of the media and pretty much went rogue. Okay, they had no ethics. They had nothing as far as they didn't give a crap about anybody else. All they did was promoted their image, bashed other people's images. Social media wasn't around for that period of time. So since social media wasn't around that period of time, they were able to get away with a certain amount, a great amount of racism. A great amount of racism towards Asian Americans in particular, Latino Americans, everybody else, gay Americans, women American. They pretty much sideline a whole entire group of people just for their own benefit. All right? And if you guys are going to question what I'm saying, you guys weren't around back then. You guys weren't around. So the way I think about social media is it makes everything fair for everybody. It's now your conscience. It's now a public conscience against this kind of prejudicial behavior, this kind of racism, the new kind of racism that started around the mid to late 1990s to a couple years ago. Selective racism. Neo-racism. I've said that neo-racism is essentially selective racism. All right? It went from the white guy being the man, the white man being the man. If you're white, Jewish, or whatever, you're on top. You pretty much dish it to everybody. But since like the late 90s to maybe a couple years ago, it's been pretty much white and black mixed as far as that's concerned, and they're just dishing it out on everybody. That should have never been the case. Everybody should have had a fair and equal representation of their race in the media, of their group in the media. Okay? That whole Mad TV phase was an extremely racist racist cultural phase that should not have existed. It didn't exist in the 80s. It didn't exist in the 70s. All right? It's a rogue time in this country. And this whole social media thing that exists today, pretty much, we're going back to the 80s, you know, where ethics actually matters. And if it doesn't matter to you, you're going to get called out on it, and you're going to get your culture canceled because you are a piece of selectively racist piece of shit. All right, but I digress. All right, so this dude is right. This dude is right because certain groups, blacks and Jews, like to promote their own agenda. All right? They like to promote their own agenda. Apparently, minority pretty much just means black or Jews. It doesn't mean everybody else in Hollywood for like the last 20 years. All right? And that's the way they wanted it. That's the way they wanted to keep it. That's the way, and they've benefited from it over the last 20 years. People couldn't say anything because they didn't have social media. Couldn't call them out on the racism. They didn't have social media, you know. But we're in a whole different time period right now. Social media exists, will always exist from this point on. All right, things have changed. You guys can't use the media to sideline people. Can't use the media to promote your own agenda while bashing the agendas of everybody else. You can't use the media for your own benefit of your own race. And you shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't be able to do that. All right? Asian Americans in this country pretty much had their culture, their identity stolen from them over the last 20 years. Set back 60 years because of this garbage in the media. All right? You guys pretty much destroyed the Asian American identity as a result of that. Pretty much destroyed the Latino American identity as a result of that. Each of these groups contributed to this country. All right? Paid their taxes, did the right thing. They didn't get what they got over the last 20 years. It went to some other group. So it's pretty much BS. All right? So every one of you guys in Hollywood who are not black or white, who want your share of the pie as far as representation is concerned, support this dude. Support this dude. I am in full support of this guy. Latino Americans, I'm in full support of you guys. Gay Americans, I'm in full support of you. You know, women's rights groups, I'm in full support of you. Asian Americans, Arab Americans, Indian Americans, whatever you are that's outside that paradigm of that white, Jewish, black thing that's happening, that's been happening in the media for like the last 20 years, I am in full support of you. All right? Because what happened to everybody else is just beyond wrong, beyond racist, beyond wrong, and it was done purposefully. It was done on purpose. This country is not a black or white country. It's not Europe. It's not Africa. Europe's got their own media. Africa's got their own media. You can't go and say, oh, why don't you go back to your country and do this? That's not what the blacks did 20 years ago that's not what was said to the blacks 20 years ago when they asked for more representation in the media. Okay? All right? They were given the same excuses. They were saying, you know, people in power in Hollywood were telling them, hey, nobody wants to see you. We can't make money off of you. We're not going to do it, etc., etc. Civil rights groups came. Jesse Jackson, NAACP, twisted their arms. 20 years later, they got America brainwashed to the point where it's normalized now. All right? And every other group has to do that. If you're gay, if you're trans, women's rights groups, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, we're all Americans. All right? That's a flat out fact that we're all Americans, okay? I get sick and tired of seeing shows where they'll put like a black person in just to put a black person in, and they'll say, look, we got a minority there. Shouldn't be that way. All right. My thought is, if you're gonna put an African American in a row, might as well put everybody else. Might as well put everybody else. Put an Asian American there. Put a Latino American there. Put a gay American there. Put a trans. I don't care. Okay. You're in the world of fiction. Okay. What you're producing is not real. It's fictionalized. All right. There was a time where they didn't even include the African American there, the black guy there, the black person there. They didn't even want to include that. They didn't include it. It was just entirely all white. Blonde haired, white skin, blue eyes. That was the standard. In the 80s, in the 70s, part of the 90s, that was the standard. That was the standard. If you watch all the shows back then, that was the standard. All right? It's not the standard anymore. It's changed up. All right? Now they've included one black person, everything. Every single white person on TV has got a black best friend. Well, here's the thing. If they got a black best friend, why don't you include an Asian American best friend, a Latino American best friend, a Muslim best friend, a gay best friend, on and on and on. Okay? So if that's not realistic, then having every one of them having a black best friend, that's not realistic. You can't be selective about, how you do this. You just can't, because that's unfair to everybody. So you're going to be fair or you're going to be unfair. You can't have this where you're going to just promote a certain group of people while leaving other groups, on the sidelines. You just can't do that. Let everybody in the party, or that party's going to be canceled out. That's just the way it is these days. All right? That's just the way it is these days. If you don't like it, tough luck. All right? You don't like being fair, you can go back to Europe and do your own thing where you cast all the white people. Go back to Africa, start up your movies, and cast all black people if you want. All right? Because I'm turning this on you guys. I'm turning this on you guys. You guys could do that if you guys want. All right? And that's a fact. So this guy deserves all the support from everybody. Everybody should actually support this guy, all right? Because the more diversity you have, at this point, the more diversity you have, the more it takes away from the racist crap. You don't have this black versus white kind of thing. You don't have this gay versus everybody else kind of thing. You don't have this women's rights group versus men. Just throw in everybody. Throw in the Indian dude, the Indian American dude, throw in the Asian American dude, throw in Latino American, throw in women's, a lot of women, and throw in gay people, just throw in everybody, so you don't have people going, you're on one side and these people are on the other side. Okay, it can't happen if everybody's, if there's at least five, if there's more than two sides or three sides, it really can't happen like that. I mean, think about that. That's the way this country needs to be at this point. That's the way this country needs to be at this point. There's no other way. You can't go backwards It's too late to go backwards. You can't go backwards. All right? That's just how it is supposed to be at this point. But to all you guys, and I get people calling me racist for saying that they should be inclusive of everybody. How stupid is that? I have to answer posts from these retards who tell me that I am being racist because I think that they should include everybody else. Think about that. It's just so stupid. I mean, think about your argument when you throw that at me. All right? And when I'm in support of somebody who's not white or black, I'm in support of everybody else, and you're calling me racist for that. It's insane to me. But hey, that's the way the whole political situation, the whole social situation has kind of morphed into these days. Wrong. Just absolutely stupid and wrong. All right? Think about what you're saying, guys. All right? Selective racism is a form of racism that has existed in Hollywood now for like the last 20 years. Pretty much existed in society for like the last 20 years because of Hollywood.